Welcome back to another Overwatch Coach VOD review. So today we're going back to somebody we VOD reviewed in the past. It was a Gold 4 Mercy in the past, and they've been promoted up to Diamond 5 now. So let's go into their introduction and see what we've got here. Hi, you've reviewed me before when I was in Gold, and now I've hit Diamond thanks to your tips. I made a few positioning mistakes this game and felt like we got steamrolled. Any tips would be appreciated, though. Thank you. I'm the Mercy, by the way. So, all right. I'm making an assumption that you're this Mercy because, so you emailed me in the past, and the name that you had given me in the past VOD review was Melody, but there's no Melody here. And when we skip ahead just slightly, there is a Mercy on each side. So I'm assuming you're this one, based on skipping ahead to see who wins and loses. So I'm hoping that I'm making an educated guess here. But if I'm on the wrong one, sorry, but you didn't give me your name. So I'm hoping this is it. Anyway. So let's dig into your Mercy gameplay, or whoever eKitten's Mercy gameplay is, and let's see what we get.
Let's go. Aerial positioning underway. Healing stream connected. You caught it?
Wow, I'm surprised nobody shot at those sim turrets. That's kind of surprising.
Boosting your damage.
One swing from that Ryan would have took both of them out.
I can fix that.
So far, so good. I mean, you were healing your Pharah when they died. Their positioning wasn't so great. You'd like to have seen that Pharah play way higher in the air than what they did there, and they died because they got grounded, essentially. I don't think they actually died on the ground, but they were like so low to the ground that you might as well have called them grounded. But I mean, they had the healing beam on them, so... This Pharah is not striking me as very good, and because of that, it might kind of counteract the Mercy pocket a bit. Like, if you're not getting value on Pharah and Mercy's pocketing you, like, it's a domino effect, because now all of a sudden you've got a support pocketing an ineffective DPS, and suddenly now the tank's getting less heals. The other support might be getting stressed out more easily. Alright, Pharah got a kill there, that's good. But so far, everything I've seen you do, frankly, I haven't really seen any mistakes coming from this gameplay yet. Yeah, heal the Pharah first, but yeah, I like the beam usage. I mean, you could have maybe swapped the damage boost a tiny bit quicker there, but that's nitpicking.
Aerial positioning underway. This will help you.
I think I would have just stayed on the ground there rather than fly. Yeah, now get with her. So, yeah, I think you kind of lost her a little bit on that one. Let's watch this interaction again real quick here. So starting here, I would stay on the ground right where you're at, or relatively speaking, like kind of, you know, using that as cover, and just stay on the ground until they make you move one way or the other, be it the Pharah or the enemy team. The enemy team would make you move from one of two ways, either pushing this position or doing so much damage to somebody else on your team that it requires you to go to them and pocket them instead. But right here, stay with your Pharah, keep her going. If we if we look, nobody's on the cart, and the Rhine, the Pharah is essentially pushing too far up here because the Rhine's not really forcing them to pay attention to him. So the Pharah is kind of in an overextended spot at the moment, and then nobody's on the cart. The Kiriko should be the one pushing this cart. This isn't necessarily a knock on you, but I'm just pointing out nobody's on the cart here. It should either be Junkrat or Kiriko. Really, it should be Kiriko. But based on where everybody is here, Rhine needs to be moved up a bit more so that they start shooting at the Rhine and not the Pharah, because right now they can't really even see Rhine, but they can see Pharah. So everybody's shooting at the Pharah. So this positioning, not the greatest here. I'm kind of feeling like this Pharah is not worth the pocket, frankly. I feel like they're kind of, they're taking up healing resources that might be better used elsewhere. So like you flew to them and now your mobility's kind of on cooldown when it didn't really need to be. So now, okay, so now the Rhine pushes up and now they're focused on him. But now these two back up to get to the cart, which we don't need both of them doing it. We just need one of them doing it. And remember I said either Junkrat or Kiriko should be doing it. Well, they both felt the need to do it. And they're technically both of them not wrong, but they're both wrong collectively. It's only got to be one, not both of them pushing it. Because now, because they both went back, now your Rhine is way overextended, and if you're not healing the Pharah is going to be overextended. So one of these two are overextended right now, and it's all based off of whoever you choose, and whoever you choose isn't necessarily going to be the wrong choice. And frankly, I even think you're doing the right thing, because right now he's got shield, so pocketing the Pharah is probably really the way to go, but the Pharah is not really going to be able to do too much here because the whole enemy team is together. So if we watch this play out, so you kind of actually get off of the Pharah a little bit there temporarily, which again, not super big deal, but all of a sudden now you're playing catch up on the Pharah and then they die. However, the Pharah is overextending given the circumstances of what these two teammates over here are doing, and it just leaves you in a rough spot. So, yeah.
Angel at your shoulder. Monstering you. Thanks for the assist. That's very useful. Boosting you for rehab.
Yep, he healed through the Sigma ult. Wow, this is a aggressive Sigma. He's really on this Pharah.
Right by you. My servants never die.
Okay, so you got caught here. So you should have been expecting this. What the Pharah is doing right here, like flying up to get over this giant high ground space, and you should have flown with them. Although the mobility nerf to Mercy is what caught you here. So Mercy so alright, I haven't actually played a lot of Mercy since they nerfed her mobility. I've done a little bit, but not a lot. But Mercy players have to manage their cooldowns more than they're used to. Mercy never really had to manage cooldowns too much outside of Resurrect. But here, this is where that nerf caught you. You couldn't keep up with the Pharah because you used your cooldown, and all of a sudden now you're ulting just to stay with the Pharah. Now, should you have done that? I say no, because what you could have done is you could have flown to the Junkrat, and if you fly over here, then you're right now with Pharah again, once your cooldown, you know, catches up to you again. So what you do is tell Pharah, when you're in this spot here, tell Pharah, I'm not with you. They could either come to the corner and allow you to catch up to them, or you just fly to the Junkrat and then you play a grounded Mercy for a couple seconds, and then the Pharah can hang back over here, and then you get back with them. Instead, you pop your ultimate to keep up with them. And the other reason why I say not a good time to ult, I mean, look, first of all, look where the enemy team is. You've got a ton of space to work with without ulting at all, but then their tank is dead. So you usually want to save your ult for when your team is taking a ton of damage and you need to kind of counteract it or something, not when you make a positioning and a cooldown mistake like this. Because now you've just amplified your mistake by using an ultimate.
My servants never die.
So let's see if your Pharah... Yeah, see, look how far back they are right now. So now, like, nothing's happening. Your whole ultimate just basically went to nothing. So at this point right here, you can heal whoever's kind of protecting the front line or being on the front line from the cart. Get that cart moving as quickly as you can, because that's the only way you can justify what you just did with your ultimate, is a making space ultimate. But to make that space, you can heal the front line and also be pushing that cart a little faster, and maybe you get the point before and they just relinquish it to you guys. Yeah, like right where before you jumped into the air and you were on the cart, that's what I would be doing here. Right here. Just heal your front line from right here. Don't fly to anybody. Just stay on the edge of the cart and keep it moving as a 2 or a 3, and then, you know, just do it from the ground here. Then you fly away from it. Now careful you're not getting killed from the soldier. Yep. So hanging tighter to your Pharah would have been the safer route. If you could have kept your airtime above, that would have been good. Otherwise, if you're not going to stay with the Pharah over here and you can't stay above the front line up here, stay with the cart. That way it's still moving. You can use the cart as cover, and you're not dying. But you, okay, you get, oh wait, no, you didn't get it. Oh my god, 0.38, that's unlucky. Ryan, what you doing?
I'm here to support.
I don't know what that Ryan was thinking there. Now, that makes your whole team have to sit back and wait.
I see an enemy. Time for the reckoning. Feel stronger? Yahi param vastavikta hai. That's been a healing spell. My servants never die. 60 seconds. They're all over me.
Can you get that res off? Yep, good, good. That was good timing on the res. The tank needed the heals. You were healing them, but you kind of stayed in range. So the second you were able to get a safe and acceptable res off, you did it. That was good. Still heal the tank though. Maybe even throw just a tiny bit of healing toward that Junkrat. Hold your pistol out, I like it. I've always been one to encourage Mercies to pull their gun out and deal a little damage. In your case, killing a Sim sentry that got ignored or missed. I find that totally acceptable. Some Mercies will say just never use it, but it's part of your kit, use it. Wow. Yeah, that Orissa's taking a ton of damage. I feel like Kiriko should have been able to keep that. Okay, well, alright, so... Alright, looking at team comp for a second, since we didn't really cover this in the beginning. You guys swap to Orisa, and they're playing the rock, paper, scissors tank game. Their tank is now counteracting your tank. Zarya counters Orisa, and that's what's going on here. So, there's a dynamic swap that changed, and it changed very quickly. There's only two things you can do. As a support, there's only one thing you can do. You can well, there's I guess there's two things. One thing you can do is try to double pocket the countered tank to keep them viable, so that your front line doesn't just die as quickly as that Orisa did. Or number two, you don't heal them at all, so that they're more encouraged to swap. But that can also backfire on you, and then they just get tilted and start raging. It's one of those situations where you can go one of two ways on it. You know what I mean? Like, you can say, all right, you know, like, just swap. You're just feeding. Like, we can't heal this. Or you can try to tank, you know, heal all the damage coming their way, which in turn is going to feed that Zarya. And you guys do not have a defensive ult to counteract a good grab from a Zarya. So it's a catch-22. You know what I mean? You're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. Frankly, what needs to happen here is the Orisa needs to swap. This is a situation, in my opinion, where the Orisa should not hold on to the ultimate and just swap so that they can try to regain their momentum back. I would not be like, okay, I'll ult and then swap. This would be okay, I just need to get back on Reinhardt or, you know, Winston or whatever. Something to counter, to re-establish a front line is more valuable than whatever this Orisa ult is likely to accomplish. If you guys had a defensive ult on support like a Zen or a Lucio, that might make my opinion change a little bit. But because you guys aren't running that, that's why I say what I say. So what just happened here? Why did you die? Okay, you're like so focused. So I didn't even see this off of your vision, but yeah, you're like so focused on pocketing this Pharah, you just frontlined I'm guessing a high charge, yeah, a fairly high charge Zarya. So watch this from Zarya's perspective. So Zarya's high charge, there's no shield for her to be afraid to beam anything down. And then on top of that, there is a Junkrat that can get her to high charge every time she throws a bubble up. Okay, and then you guys swap to Junker Queen. So that's a good... I don't know if that's a good swap, but I like it better than Orisa. But I don't know. Junker Queen's kind of in the same category as Orisa here, so I don't know if that's necessarily a good swap or not, but we'll see how it works out. But anyway, let's watch from the Zarya's perspective what you did. So see how you're like so hyper-focused on healing the Pharah? Look at where you're at, and she just kills you. You were an easy kill there. And then the Pharah is an easy kill too here. And this is why Junker Queen's not the greatest, because she can just beam that down. Like, this Zarya is killing literally everything. And it's because of poor tank play, really. It's poor tank play and poor positioning. That Zarya just carried that fight. So, yeah. That's gonna be our cover.
Ladies and gentlemen, amplifying your power.
30 seconds remaining.
Let the Kitsune guide you.
My servants never die.
I think I wait here to alt. So when you alt,
Amplifying your power.
the fight hasn't totally begun yet.
Let the Kitsune guide.
Your team's at full health, relatively speaking.
My servants never die.
But yeah, I wait here. Like maybe right...
Someone called.
Probably when they start pushing beyond here, going that way, that's probably where I would look to Mercy ult if I'm doing it as an initiation ult. Try to get a little deeper in on that one.
There's one.
You might even save it for when you guys start fighting in here, because there's going to be a fight in here, even if you win this fight. And you might have saved that ult for that, because you look at all the ults, you guys don't have any. You're about to have Junker Queen ult for that fight, but that's it. If you had Junker Queen and Mercy ult, you probably are going to win this fight in here. I think you overcommitted to that initial fight.
Over here.
10 seconds remaining.
And that's assuming you even get that far, because you haven't gotten that far yet. Okay. Yeah, you guys are going to get that far now, but now it's going to be a matter of will you guys be able to do anything with it.
Boosting your damage.
Come here and I will heal you.
Come here for healing.
Let's take him to the
So you'd like to see Kiriko being the one up there with the Junker Queen. Not faulting you for jumping on it because somebody needed to, but Kiriko should be the one up there. Bastion and you should be the ones pushing the cart at this point, and then Junkrat just doing Junkrat things, basically.
adaptive circuits engaged.
Yeah, see, now imagine if you had your ultimate here, you could have been flying in the air, being hard to hit, teams getting healed a little bit more or damage boosted a little bit more, and you potentially win that fight. Potentially. Not saying for sure, but gives your team way better of a chance than anything. So, alright, what has changed? So now it's Hanzo instead of Pharah, and we're back on the Orisa, and they're going to be running Hammond, a Widow, Zen Mercy, and Soldier. Okay, interesting. So, alright, well, let's see how this one plays out. In terms of... So I don't feel like Mercy's the best pick here. If the Hanzo is landing his shots consistently, Mercy can be fine here, because then you're going to be damage boosting the Mercy. If he's not, you could try pocketing the Junkrat. This isn't the worst map in the world to be playing Junkrat on, because it is a narrower map. So I would suggest when you've got a Junkrat on this kind of a map, pocketing Junkrat could work. It could work. I don't normally suggest pocketing Junkrats as Mercy too often, but this is a map where it might work. That and Shambali Monastery is another map where pocketing a Junkrat as Mercy could theoretically be very effective. Any of these maps where you're in tight lanes and they're forced to kind of be playing around the cart, sometimes playing Junkrat and pocketing a Junkrat could be better than a sniper. I only say that as a potential. You got to feel it out. Are your long range heroes landing shots? Are they landing the deadly shots? Like, are they landing headshots? If they're not, the spam damage hero sometimes could be the better choice to pocket. And if you're not getting the value on either, then that's where swapping off a Mercy is probably going to be more valuable. Your Kiriko needs to be healing your Orisa. So I'm not... Where is your Kiriko? Yeah, your Kiriko's playing too far back. Kiriko should be playing up more with the Orisa. Behind Orisa, but up more with her. So you need to get airtime so that you're not taking this kind of crazy damage. Yeah, see, like right there you missed a good opportunity to get airtime. Okay, there you got away from him, so that's good. Yeah, see, there again, if you're in the air, you don't get slammed. You're a little too grounded here against this Hammond. Do your best, when you're Mercy, do your best to live in the air at all costs. So then that way the Hammond will be going for everybody else. And then you can counter dive whoever the Hammond goes to by just flying to them and healing them and staying in the air. Because if you're in the air, the Hammond's going to have trouble tracking you and doing damage to you. And then you can out-heal the damage the Hammond outputs on whoever he goes for. But see, you're on the ground, so he had the opportunity to go for you and freak you out, do damage to you, maybe even kill you. And you weren't really in a position to do anything about that. Here again, I'm not a big fan of this ultimate.
Here to help.
I think I went too far back. So, okay. Okay, well, I didn't notice the tank being dead here. So you ult, where is your tank? Oh my god, he's so far up. Why is he this far up? Yeah, I mean, ooh, I'm on the wrong guy. Your tank is really overextended here, and so is theirs, kind of. But then again, he's supposed to be. I would not ult this because you can't save that tank. He's in no man's land. Frankly, this feels like it's just bad positioning on your team, and now you're amplifying it by ulting here. Yeah, I think you had a bit of a Jesus complex where you thought you could save everything. You can't. You can't save bad positioning, and you can't heal. You can't out-heal stupid, and that was stupid positioning. That savior complex can be a huge detriment to a support's gameplay. It took me a long time, more than I'm willing to admit to kind of get out of that and just look at people who are doing stupid things and realizing I can't do anything to save it other than to just try to call it out on a mic, which will usually be met with mixed reception, oftentimes not the greatest. Some of it comes from my tone, because when I play this game, my stress level obviously increases, as I'm sure yours does as well, and it probably doesn't come out in the greatest of tones. So sometimes you got to really kind of be mindful of your inflection, but in the tone of voice. But be careful of that savior complex, because it will make you make mistakes. It will put you in bad positions. And it will lower your gameplay with it. When you stop the savior complex side of you as a support with good that uses their mobility effectively, you will very easily have support games where you die under 5 times throughout the entire course of the game. Last week, no, it was, when was this? This was like Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. I got a 4th account into Masters, and 2 out of my last 3 games that promoted me into Masters 4 I had 2 games back to back with 0 deaths. And that all came from just not like just knowing when you can't heal somebody, when you can't save them, and just backing out and getting to somebody you can, or just getting out of the fight entirely and waiting for the next one. When you kind of get to that level of clarity, it's a beautiful thing.
This will just take a moment.
Like right here, this tank is way too deep again.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
And any of the healing you just gave that tank was just extra feed that tank was already feeding. Because you can't out heal the damage that Orisa was taking that deep in. Now, if that Orisa is kind of like somewhere in this vicinity, or even, let's even say here. Let's say somewhere this line and back, and then you start healing them, then you might be able to save them. Because then they've got potentially that cover, this room, the cart. You know, there's places for them to go where they can hide and not just eat and feed a bunch of damage. But when they're out in the open, right in the middle of the enemy team, there's nothing you can do. Like, they're just feeding at that point. That is feeding. And that's reportable under gameplay sabotage. Feeding is one of the options. This tank is feeding. Now, whether or not they're doing it intentionally or not, that's up for debate. And, you know, I'm not just saying report everybody that feeds, but this tank is feeding.
Mercy.
So as a support player, you need to be aware of when a tank is feeding and when to heal and when to just watch them die. Because when you throw extra healing at a tank that feeds, like in that scenario, let's say you healed them 100 HP, but then they still died. Well, that's 100 HP more of ult charge that went into the enemy team. If their positioning's good, and you think you might be able to potentially save them, then do it. But, you know. Okay, good job. I like what we saw there.
I have empowered you.
So, the one thing I can say now that you guys have kind of retook the fight. So one, don't back up to the cart like what your team is doing. You should be taking space right now. You guys should be moving up. I don't know why your guys are all backing up, because now what's going to happen is you're allowing them to walk all the way back up to the cart for free. If you basically go back to your original spot, like when the game first starts on defense for you guys, you force them to have to refight and retake all of this space that they've already taken again. And then when the Hammond starts diving to the cart, you guys can all back up and converge on the Hammond, and suddenly now he's overextended. The team's not with that Hammond, and then you guys can maybe kill him. Suddenly now they don't have a tank, and then you guys can go 5 versus 4 against the enemy. Now, your Junkrat just died. Where did he die? See, what your Junkrat did is correct, but because the rest of the team didn't join him, now he's overextended. You guys should have moved up where he is. He's doing the right thing, but because he's alone, he's doing the wrong thing. So this is where people get confused in Overwatch, because he's technically where all of you should be, but because only he did it, he's in the wrong. You get what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense. But all of you guys playing back here, this is incorrect. You should all have been where the Junkrat is. But the Junkrat should have been paying attention to that and then not being there in the first place, trying to get you guys to go where he is. I also don't know why you're ulting here. This is not a good ult. Okay, now would be a good time to ult, to stay ahead of the, you know, above the mines and then heal any of the damage coming in. But I would have done that like right now and not like 5 seconds before this. So here's the thing I'm going to suggest. Because we've clearly seen this Orisa likes to feed and tank a lot of damage, you might want to start pocketing the Orisa from the beginning of the fight. And if you do it from the beginning of the fight, they're more liable to keep their armor. And if they've got armor, they're taking less damage and then they're feeding less. So trying to keep Orisa's armor going might be the better way of dealing with things. And then if you do that, you might want to try communicating that to the Kiriko. Because as I mentioned in a lot of my videos, there's a division of labor between support, and in this division, up until maybe right now, it's been Mercy healing the DPS, and then the Kiriko supposed to be pocketing the tank. But if we're going to be maybe Mercy pocketing the tank from now on, because the Orisa's been kind of struggling with it, now the Kiriko's got to be kind of a little bit more focused on healing the DPS. And if there's going to be that switch, you'd probably want to communicate that, because you can't really expect a random other support to pick up on that kind of a thing. This is kind of like a mental high-level adjustment that needs to be made, and I wouldn't expect this Kiriko to do that. I don't expect random Kirikos in any of my games to do what they're supposed to do, because I see Kirikos doing all kinds of random shit, but the point I'm making is, if you communicate that and get on the same page, you know, maybe that goes a little smoother. But in terms of what we just saw here, watch your tank. The second you get off your tank, they just start melting. Because this Orisa, again, does not know how to play Orisa without taking a boatload of damage. So that's why I say you almost have to be like just on heal beam the entire time on this Orisa to make this Orisa effective. The other thing is, this Hanzo is now feeding, and what I would have done is I would have rezzed the Kiriko, and I would have expected the Hanzo to stay in that vicinity. So one thing you could have done is called out to the Hanzo, I'm going to res Kiriko. Then that way both of you can kind of double heal the Hanzo and get out as a trio, because now you guys are in a little bit of a rough spot. If all three of you were... yeah, see, now you got booped, or he got booped down and now he's dead. If the Kiriko were there, that might not have happened. Might have happened, but it might not have happened. So the other thing that I would point out, see how this Orisa just doesn't know, their game sense is very low. It's just very bad. But the one thing I can say is, if you're just really going on the heal pocket for the Orisa, you'll be able to spit Mercy ultimates out, and you can be way more aggressive with ulting as Mercy, and then the more Mercy ults you spit out, the more healing's gonna come to your team as a whole. And it will kind of forgive you pocketing the Orisa in terms of your DPS, because then you can just spit them out, and then at that point everybody's gonna get healed from you.
I'll make sure that doesn't stop. Enemy over here.
And I feel like you kind of are feeling the same thing I'm feeling, because I am noticing you going more towards your Orisa now than the DPS, and frankly you have to, because this Orisa just keeps moving up. Except at the one time we needed them to, which was when you guys actually, you know, won that one team fight. But like, look where this Orisa is versus where the rest of the team is. It's like,
You call? Heilstrahl aktiviert. My servants never die. Let's get...
yeah, so right there,
Over there!
You didn't use your cover. So stay in this vicinity, like over here.
My servants never die.
See, if you would have used your cover and stayed behind there, you would have been better off. And then that res, look at what that did. It just fed. They died immediately. Now, if you stay alive with that, then we might be talking differently, maybe. And I say maybe because I don't know if you would have been able to out heal that anyway. But that just turned into more feeding.
Zeit für einen neuen Plan.
This Orisa really needs to swap. This Orisa's not doing anything. See, they just walk in again and die. Like this game is 100% a tank diff. And I don't even necessarily know if their tank is really doing all that much, but it's the fact that they're doing less harm to their team than your tank is doing.
I'm here to support. Feel stronger?
Because right now your tank is just such a net negative.
I'll make sure that doesn't.
I would like if I'm in this game, I would be yelling at this Orisa. I 100% would be super annoyed at this Orisa. And if they don't adjust their gameplay, they would have definitely gotten a feeding gameplay sabotage report from me, 100%. Because this would, for me, this would have been called out, and if they don't adjust their gameplay, this is reportable to me. This tank is such a net negative to your team. Like, it's one thing to accidentally feed in the beginning and then, you know, but they're just, they've been doing it the whole defense. They're just dying on grease spawn here. They're just repeatedly dying. The only thing I would suggest at this point is you could swap to like Moira or Baptiste and try to, or Anna, and try to do a little bit more of a main heal approach to your tank and see if you can kind of keep them up that way. Because if you watch a lot of my videos, I say Mercy and Kiriko they're pseudo healers in the sense of if they're main or off heal. And I'm not saying Kiriko and Mercy can't work together, but they're both pseudo. So if you maybe threw in a main healer, like an actual main healer to this team comp, which would be Bat Moira or Anna, I guess I would be a little curious to see how that would change the dynamic of this Orisa. But with that said, this Orisa is still feeding their ass off. But it definitely would have made sense to at least try it. Because it is, I will say one thing. When I'm not playing support and things aren't working, and the supports are always telling everybody to swap, but they're not swapping, that will get on my nerves a little bit too. And the one thing I have noticed, neither support has swapped this entire game, and this clearly is not working. Like, this clearly just isn't working. Your Orisa is 100% feeding, but that's out of your control. What is in your control is swapping to a hero that maybe can re-enable this Orisa to play in their style that they just clearly want to play in. So I just do want to throw that out there too. If you maybe went to like Ana or Bap, I think that probably would have been the two heroes that would have been able to heal the Orisa from a distance and maybe kept them going. I don't know if it would have worked though. I'm definitely not saying it would have worked, but all I'm saying is it 100% would have been worth a try. Because this clearly ain't working. And if they're not swapping off the Orisa anymore for whatever reason, it almost feels like they're tilting. it's out of your control. So
They have us outnumbered. I'm here to support.
only thing I could say there is just pull out your gun and try to get a pick, but that's about it. That's all you really could have did there.
I better be more careful.
And then they got it. I'm actually a little surprised that for as much I'm harping on this Orisa, and for as much as this Orisa is feeding, this was actually kind of close. I mean, like, you guys did basically, like, hold this to overtime almost. And I'm a little surprised by that.
I better be more careful.
But he did still lose. So, number one would be positioning, and we covered that. Like, when you res that Orisa, use your cover a little bit more. Fly, stay in the air more when Hammonds are roaming the map. You want to stay in places the Hammond can't get you, can't do damage to you, that kind of a thing. 3 alt timing, and we covered that as we saw it. And then 4 swap to maybe a main healer, just to see if you can maybe keep this Orisa from dying as fast as they were dying, because for the most part you did what you could as Mercy to keep that Orisa going for the most part, and it wasn't working. So when you start getting into that dynamic, just give it a try and see what happens. You lost anyway. You might as well, you know, it was definitely worth a try to maybe see if Ana could have worked there, or Baptiste could have worked there, something like that. The other thing I do want to say is they're running Hammond. Run something that counters Hammond. Brig could have maybe been an interesting pick there too. The more you counter the Hammond, could have just created a different dynamic that maybe would have given you guys a little bit more of a beefy frontline or something like that. So just things to consider, things to think about in the future. I hope this was helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.